Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I really don't know where to start here because what happened last night is simply unacceptable. Um, I wasn't dreaming about the Champions League. I think it was clear that it was pretty much impossible. And even reaching the Europe League was complicated. But finish like this is unacceptable. We lost at home against Lecce that had one man down for what was it, 1 half and 10 minutes, and we weren't able to score a single goal. Alasdair, I don't know if this was the worst performance so far this season, but definitely one of the worst, right?
Definitely one of the worst. I think as a final game of the season, it has basically summed up everything that's wrong with this team, which is very convenient of them to provide that on the final day so that we can talk about everything that's gone wrong. Because this is, you know, an accumulation of things that we've talked about. It's the team's inability to defend. Lazio are the only team in Serie A not to have a clean sheet at home in 2025. All 19 other teams have managed that at least once, including Monza. I mean, that is just embarrassing. And they don't know how to attack anymore. It's this idea of, play crap for an hour or more and then frantically try and throw everything forward. But it's quantity over quality. There's very little ideas other than pump the ball in the box and hope for the best. And the home form has been a complete catastrophe. And as a result, it's humiliation, really, losing at home to a relegated team, a relegation fighting team in a game you have to win. Because let's not forget, although Champions League was unlikely, Lazio had to win this game in order to have a chance. If that wasn't going to happen, Lazio had to at least draw this game to avoid doing what they've done, which is fall completely out of the European spots. And it's, to be honest, no surprise to me that the reaction at the end of the game was what it was, which was a massive chorus of boos.
Well, even at the end of the first half, there was massive boos. And I mean, how can you complain about this? This team has been terrible at home, but 2025 has been a disaster for this team. And it looks like Baroni is going to pay for this. There's going to be a meeting this week to decide the future. And you know how things are going. Baroni is going to pay for everyone. But I mean, we talked about Baroni's mistakes, and I guess we're going to talk about it even today. But let's be honest, blaming Baroni is hiding the real problem here, right? And to be honest, it was funny because the Laziali yesterday tweeted the list of all the disaster signing of Iglitare. But this morning I woke up and said, it's incredible, but I'm missing Iglitare. Compared to Fabiani, Tare is a god, right? 2 years in a row as a sport director, and 2 years in a row, Lazio finished seventh with Angelo Fabiani. And in the last 2 years, I struggled to see a decent signing, right? And Baroni is going to pay for them, but the one who should resign today is the sport director, who has been completely a disaster so far.
Well, I think there's responsibility throughout the club. I mean, Lotito is being protested again last night, as he often is. He's got a lot to answer for not. I think for basically the usual thing people complain about, which is lack of investment. But I think that's particularly it's a particular problem when you're trying to transition from one era to the next, because really to be able to try and stand a hope of retaining your competitiveness when you're trying to bring down the age of the team, and yeah, like I say, move on from the core of that squad that we had for so many years into something new. that was always going to be difficult, but it's made more difficult. I saw this post this morning Tommaso Paradiso put out. I don't know if you've seen it, which is pretty scathing about everything to do with the club and this focus on the budget sheets, basically, and everyone being obsessed with the fact that we're financially stable when actually we're just becoming less and less competitive. And I think Lotito's got something to answer there. Fabiani, like you say, hasn't done well enough in the market, but the Paradiso point was that he kind of the only players we managed to sign were from the only two clubs that we actually have relationships with, and that's also a problem to do with Lotito. And then the players themselves have a lot to answer for. So Baroni, look, I'm not going to be a defender of Baroni today and say he's done everything perfectly. He hasn't. He's been a big part of this too, but it would be very short-sighted to think that Baroni is the only problem going on here, because from players to directors to owner to coach, I think everyone has got things wrong to lead us to this point.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we mentioned it at the start of the season. Baroni wasn't the right man, but I guess if you give him the Real Madrid squad, probably here we will be talking about Lazio finishing in the top four. But this squad was a below average team, not a Champions League team. So obviously Baroni has blames, but this team is terrible. And Alasdair, the quotes from Baroni press conference yesterday are really concerning. He said that this week, well, last week, obviously, coming to this game, he was really scared because he could see in the training players not focusing on the game that was really important for us, but looking forward to the holidays. Now, this is simply unacceptable. We are not Udinese, who have nothing to fight for. The last game was fundamental. We needed a win to keep everything, all opportunity open. We still had, I said, very difficult, but a remote chance to qualify for the Champions League. We needed 1 point for the Conference League, and players were already focusing on holidays. This is simply not acceptable, and I hope Lotito, Fabiani, someone is going to do something about it, because Lazio fan show up yesterday. The Stadio Olimpico was packed, and you played thinking about where to go on holiday tomorrow. This is embarrassing. This is not professional football, right?
How do you challenge that attitude though? Because I mean that's kind of complacency, and that's something I brought up frequently when being disappointed about Lazio this season. These poor results against lower table teams, bad starts in games, or bad starts to second halves, all these things. And I've said repeatedly that they have that complacent attitude that they haven't earned, and I've never been able to understand why they think they have the right to take anything lightly, because they just haven't played well enough to earn that right. And to hear comments like that, it adds another question to the overall mentality or atmosphere within this group. I mean, does that fall on Baroni's shoulders? Should he be cultivating a different atmosphere within the squad? Is that something that is on him to ensure that that doesn't happen and those standards don't slip? Or is this simply just a question of having the right kind of personalities in the dressing room to begin with? When we're talking about performances of these players is one thing, but if you're talking about attitude, it's another thing, because those are the things you can do for free. You don't need talent to have a good attitude, and that should be baked in at this level. That should be a part of the deal. If you're playing for Lazio, you should have that attitude.
Well, the thing is, from my point of view, it's both. I mean, do you remember Antonio Conte ever saying something like that? I mean, players for Conte die on the pitch for the manager. Baroni is simply not Conte.
Yeah.
The other thing is, obviously, if you sign players from Verona or Salernitana, players who are used to give up, not compete, then this is what you're getting, right? Players who don't show up. I mean, Dia yesterday was invisible. I don't understand why he wasn't subbed. Um, Tati Castellano, last goal he scored in Serie A at home was Lazio Monza, so the 9th of February. I mean, we've been celebrating, talking highly about average, below average players. And below average players, I mean, the only one who yesterday tried something was Pedro. Let's be honest. He came in the second half and he was the only one trying something. All the others were juggling around just to show they were there. This is embarrassing. I should fire the whole team this morning, which is not going to happen. And, there's going to be this meeting this week where probably Fabiani and Lotito will say, hey, we give you an incredible roster, a great team, etc., and you failed us. And the truth is, no, absolutely not. This team is embarrassing. I mean, people wondering why Gila is not at the Real Madrid. Well, we saw it yesterday, right? Imagine doing what Gila did yesterday at Real Madrid. He's done. He's finished. He's not going to be able to get out of the stadium, right? This Lazio player, this our captain, Zaccagni, in the last 2 months and more, is pretty much invisible. No assist, no goal. Yesterday, he didn't do nothing. He was subbed at the end of the game because it was useless. And we brought in Noslin, who's another ghost of this team. This tells you about how bad this team is. And there was people saying, this is a Champions League transfer market. Not even close. Not even close. This team is embarrassing.
I don't remember many people claiming it was a Champions League transfer market. I mean, we were pretty down on the team before the season started. That's why we were predicting 8th place, 7th place. I mean, they have ultimately ended up doing more or less what we expected when we saw this team at the start of the year. That doesn't make it any easier to deal with because you're seeing these guys just not improve or not kind of adapt in any way. And that's the issue for me. That look, there's clearly a problem where the way Baroni wants this team to play, and perhaps the way this team needs to play, is with real intensity, because they lack quality in the final third. Isaacson had a great couple of months, and otherwise he's a ghost in games. He still doesn't have the confidence, the kind of character probably to impose himself on matches. He just doesn't. Tati will score every now and then, but again last night, the best chance of the game, he's got a header from 6 yards. You got to make that unsavable. I'm sorry, it's a good save from Falcone, but you got to make that unsavable. He won't score. Dia, we know, huge highs and lows, and Zaccagni just does the same thing every time. I mean, he falls over when he's touched and gets fouls, and he tries to cut inside and either cross or shoot, and that's all you get. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but he's quite predictable. This is not a team that has anything particularly dynamic about it. You know exactly what you're going to get with it. And the thing is, quantity over quality worked at the start of the season because we were so ferocious in our attacking, we were so intense with our attacking, that teams couldn't deal with it. And if we're having 30 shots a game, it meant we would score 2 or 3 goals and we might outscore opponents. The defense didn't matter as much. As the season's gone on, obviously that's been harder to keep up with people getting tired and European competitions, the rest of it. But you would hope, Vittorio, that absolute minimum is you can lift yourself to get there for the final game, especially when you've just had a month without those midweek games. You've got this full week to prepare, and now it's like everything, all or nothing really on this one match, and you're at home, and again, no intensity in that match, that performance. I mean, how poor was that first half? We talk the second half again, like I said, so predictable. The only way they could think of trying to break down 10 men was pumping balls in the box and hoping for second balls to break. But even in the first, I mean, they just didn't do anything. It was such a shocking performance, probably the worst of the season.
Yeah, I mean, you could see Lecce was fighting for something. We didn't give that impression, right? We were like, okay, this is the last game of the season. just try to not get injured, otherwise my holiday will be bad. And that's it. This is unacceptable. And I don't know. One of the most concerning thing, Alasdair, is that the new signing in the last 2 months or so have been probably the worst players we had. I mean, Dele Bashiru disappeared for 1 month. Noslin hardly playing. Dia and Tavares were probably the worst starters we had in the last games or so. This is so concerning, so concerning. And you said it right. We were predicting seventh place, but none of us was predicting Milan to do so bad, right? No one expected Milan to finish out of the top seven. And let's be honest, Bologna, when they reached the final, the Coppa Italia final, gave up the league. Otherwise, we would have been eighth, easy peasy, right? Bologna would have been ahead of us, easy. They just didn't focus on the Serie A anymore. They just focus on the Campionato, on the Coppa Italia. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here talking about seventh place. We would be here talking about eighth, ninth. So this is the truth.
But seventh in itself, like in other circumstances, you can call this a transitional season, and you can say it's, you know, sometimes teams do need a stepping stone to move from one era to the next, to move from one team to the next. But I just don't think this season you can make this argument. I mean, even if we'd finished top six, I've been saying repeatedly, top six, you have to say is an acceptable overall achievement for this team, considering it's a transition and so on. And I stand by that, because top six this season meant Europe, seventh doesn't. So it's a big difference. And also, it, regardless of where you finish, what the points totals are. I mean, I saw Baroni referencing the average points total over the last 10 years. I was like, what are you talking about? And this is the problem. The team has got worse as the year has gone on. So it is very difficult to look at this as a transitional season where you're able to build into something better, when the team in the team is only in this position to begin with because of what it did between August and December. And the new signings you've made, the additions you've made to try and start this new era, like you've just outlined, just haven't worked. 90% of them. And so what you're left with now is a team that looks more and more like a kind of mid-table team, unless you're careful, unless you can find a way of injecting more quality into this team. We've relied on a 38-year-old to get us to this point. I mean, it's almost miraculous that Lazio or even in the European discussion. If you win one home game in 12 from November onwards, how is it's amazing we were even in a chance on the final day.
Absolutely. And the thing is, if you consider the last couple of games or so, which are your players you want to start next season? I mean, Mandas probably, and that's it, right? They even Guendouzi yesterday, very nervous, didn't do pretty much nothing. Again, I don't know why he subbed Rovella, not Guendouzi, and this is another Baroni mistake. But really, if you consider our team, you could say Pedro and Mandas are the only players who say, okay, next year these are going to be our key players, or the key players we want to keep. I mean, if it's real that Nottingham Forest is offering 35 million euros for Zaccagni, I'm really happy to sell him. I'm not thinking twice about it. I mean, I can bring you directly to the Fiumicino airport, because this year you've been terrible. You had 2 months good, and that's it. So there's not a player who you can say in September was 6, now he's 8, right? Probably the only one is Mandas, who will improve this season. All the others, I mean, Nuno Tavares' last assist was October. October. I mean, we are May, end of May. Really, this is the most concerning part. We
Yeah.
don't have quality, Alasdair. We don't have quality. The
No.
youngsters have been a disaster.
And this is the thing. It's it's so much on Lotito and Fabiani now because you don't get quality by chance. You don't get quality in general by shopping at the bottom of the table or in the relegation zone. And we've seen that. That's what we tried to do last year with buying Chauna and Noslin, and they've completely failed. The Ibrahimovic transfer is just madness because either
No.
Zlatan, he's 45 years old. He's,
Okay.
um, but it's kind of crazy because what's the point of doing it if you're not on the same page? And whatever the reason, they weren't on the same page about that because Baroni's not wanted to use him.
Belayan,
And look,
Ibrahimovic.
they need to make some sort of statement this summer,
You know what?
don't they? Because it's a shame we've been on a ride this year, but it's such a shame that last night I was thinking things have come full circle because I was thinking back to that first game of the season, and that first game was such a bad atmosphere because people were booing Lotito. There was protests. It was all of this, and the reason that the season started that way was because of the summer we just had and this perceived lack of ambition from the transfer market, from the appointment of Baroni, from all of it. And then we've been on this journey over the last 9, 10 months where everything was going far better than we expected. We ended up getting further in Europe than we'd expected. But ultimately, we come all the way to the end and we're back to where we started, which is everybody booing Lotito, the team being protested, and people thinking that summer market and the appointment of Baroni weren't good enough. So it's such a strange season in that sense that we've actually ended up right back where we started, but we've just had a lot going on between them.
Alice, the Friday you were enjoying a team winning the Scudetto. 20 years ago, Napoli was in Lega Pro while Lazio was in Serie A. In 20 years, everything changed. Now we are not even close to Napoli. Napoli is able to sign Antonio Conte. We picked Baroni because that's a maximum level. They signed a Scottish player who I don't remember his name, who wasn't important for Napoli title win. We signed Noslin. They have Lukaku, who's not my favorite striker, but even in a terrible season, score more goals than our Tati Castellanos. Napoli started from nothing, and now it's top of the table. It's far away from Lazio. They can do an incredible market. They're going to sign De Bruyne. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You have on one side a manager who thinks about the future, thinks how improve, make more money. We have a manager who doesn't care, who is in the 80s still. And in 20 years, we've been bypassed by Napoli. And now we're not even close to Atalanta anymore. And we're going downhill, keep going down. This is the most concerning part. Let's not mention that without a European competition, this summer is going to be a disaster. There's a huge risk that we are going to sell 3 key players, and I wonder what price, seeing how they perform. So the worst thing is not that we miss the European competition, is that I don't see a bright future. I think I see things going worse and worse.
Well, this is a huge summer for Lazio for that reason, because if they're not careful, this could be the start of this team kind of tumbling into mid-table and staying there. Whereas our ambition in recent years has been to become a regular Champions League team. That is the ambition people have got used to because under Inzaghi and Sarri, that was a realistic ambition that we were pushing for. Now, it's I think Napoli is an interesting club to bring up on a day like today because they have gone off into the distance. They are far ahead from Lazio, but Lazio can still learn from what Napoli did last summer because Napoli finished 10th. They had a way worse year than we've just had. Went through 3 coaches, finished 10th. That was being champions, finishing 10th, and they responded by appointing the most successful coach in Serie A history and spending 150 million euros to completely revamp their squad. And Conte was still spending the whole year talking about the squad not being good enough. And obviously there were some issues with depth and so on. But that was a real show of kind of intent and commitment from De Laurentiis to make sure like 10th is not who we are. We are the team we were the year before. And Lotito has to do a Lazio version of that this summer because that otherwise you do become mediocre. And I'm not asking him to appoint Conte and spend 150 million. That is obviously completely unrealistic. That's why I'm saying a Lazio version of that. But a Lazio version of that does mean more ambition. If they are going to get rid of Baroni, make sure you are appointing another Maurizio Sarri style level of coach. And when you are in the market, don't shop in Salernitana. Go and actually spend some proper money on players because this is 2025 and you can't spend 5-6 million on transfers and hope to have enough quality in your team. You do need to actually spend money nowadays.
We are not signing Salernitana. This year is for Empoli who got relegated. So it's Empoli and Venezia, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Looking forward to having Haps and Idzes or someone in our team next season.
Pazzini. No, really. Go and sign Garnacho. I mean, he's out of the squad, Manchester United. He's young, he's talented. That would be our McTominay answer, right? He's not Scottish though, but
yeah, I mean, if all they need to do is ask, and I'll give them some Scottish suggestions because it seems to be the winning formula at the moment. I mean, Ferguson winning the cup and McTominay and Gilmore winning the league, so it's the way.
Yeah,
to go.
We're gonna sign the worst Scottish player ever this summer, right? We're gonna say, "Hey, we did it!" like all the winning team.
Convince them to sign Ross County's worst player for 20
but
million.
Probably even the best player would work, right? So that wouldn't be a problem. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, this is probably a huge opportunity for Lotito. Prove everybody wrong. This year has been a disaster. Let's not hide from it. You said we are rejuvenating the team. No, this team is weaker than last. To put in context, we had a couple of years ago Milinkovic Savic, Luis Alberto, Ciro Immobile, Felipe Anderson. Now we don't have that quality. We don't have those type of player who could decide the game with one touch. So this year, you have to do a great summer. Obviously, we're not expecting signing those type of play 100 million euros, right? But be smart. Go and sign quality player who are cheap. I mean, Manchester United is selling a lot of players. You could get some of them that work. Just see what they did. They sold player they won everywhere they went, right? McTominay, etc., etc. Get quality players. Don't go relegated team. Don't go Serie B. Go and buy good players from good teams. Because this is what we need. We don't need Noslin anymore. We don't need Shauna anymore. We need quality players ready, players who can change this team. This is your chance. We've been a disaster. Prove that you really care about this team. And it's not only the balance sheet. Okay, plus 10 for us. That's good. Right?
Yeah, and I think it's probably also time to move on a bit from this idea of we're not a selling club and we will, if someone comes for any of our good players, we won't sell them at any price. I think when we had Milinkovic, Savic, Immobile, Alberto, these guys, it was fair enough because they were the complete core of everything in that team and so important to how that team functioned. But now we don't have players at that level. But now I think if you do have people coming for Gila, for Guendouzi, for Zakanya, whatever, I think you should listen. And I think if you get a good offer, you should sell because you can actually reinvest that money. I mean, I'm saying you should sell on the condition that you then reinvest. the what you make into making better signings, because I don't think anyone in this team has an untouchable status after this season, and I don't think anyone in this team is a player that this team can't live without.
No.
They need basically quality additions from top to bottom. The thing I'm worried about is that I think in order to do a lot of this, they need to be making decisions pretty quickly, both in terms of what they're going to do with Baroni. I mean, you said there's a meeting this week, so I think we should get a decision on that soon. And then also in terms of what your targets are in the market, because we know Lazio operates slowly in the market, and that's been such a problem. But if you're going to get some of these deals, like you're talking about guys leaving at end of contracts or guys who are up for sale, Lazio aren't going to be the only club who are interested, and they need to make a move if they're going to actually get some of the best quality options who are out there.
Alistair, a lot of questions. So let's remind everybody we're doing an exclusive Q&A for our Patreon this week. So if you have question for us, now's the perfect time to
It's going to be a busy one.
the perfect time to ask a question, and we're going to answer it. Probably this Wednesday we're going to record this podcast. So go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Membership starts at $2 a month. There's a live chat. You can post a question there. You can post it on a social account, wherever you prefer. And Wednesday is going to be live. But Alistair, I think there are only two players that I would keep this summer. Christos Mandas, because I think he's young. He still need to show his talent. He's probably one of the few players who have increased his performance this year, who has been shown improvement. And the other one is Nicolo Rovella, because he's still very young. He had a good season. I can think of Rovella keep improving and maybe in 2 years' time be one of the best, if not the best midfielder in Italy. But all the others are for sale for the right price. Zaccagni, delusional season. But even the same Guendouzi. Tadic, let's not talk about Tadic Castellanos. I mean, if really someone is willing to sign Tadic Castellanos for 35 million euros, first, you have to see a doctor. And second, you are signed. But, even Gila, people were saying, Gila, not less than 50 million euros. Guys, how many points did we lose thanks to Gila this season? A lot. He thinks he's Beckenbauer, ball on his feet, head high, and moving forward. No, I give you this tip. You're not Beckenbauer. You are a good defender, but you think you're overrated. So, really, from Romagnoli onwards, for the right offer, ciao, goodbye. 30 million euros, I'm selling everybody. Really. Again, Mandas and Rovella are the only one I'm thinking about if the offer is 30 million euro. Zaccagni, Isaacsen, Guendouzi, Gila, Romagnoli, Nuno Tavares. For me, 30 million euros, they're yours. And I'm really interested to hear a listener if they agree with me or not. But seeing how we did the last month or so, I don't think we're going to get a lot of those 30 million euros offer. But Alistair, this is how you can change something, because otherwise next year is going to be even worse. And I know some people said, no, it's better to not play the Conference League. So this team is going to be less tired and more focused on the Serie A. Guys, I give you a tip. We're not going to win the Scudetto like Napoli did. Without the Europe League or the Conference League, it's not going to change that much. Because if Noslin is below average now, he's not going to be better next year, right? So don't count on this.
Yeah, I mean, should say right now we are thinking of the worst versions of all of these players because that's what we've seen. I do agree. I mean, that's what I was saying. I think you can't refuse. There's no one who's unsellable in this team, for me, to be honest. I probably put Mandas in that bracket too. I don't think he's unsellable. I mean, I would like him to stay because he's young and he's talented, but if someone came in and offered 30 million for him,
You know
having played
what?
half a
The,
season,
the
I'd
thing
take
is,
it.
Mandas didn't have a full season. I think if he had a full season, he can show everybody even more. And, to be honest with you, they're another very good young goalkeeper. So once you have one, you really can cash out next year. But again, I mean, for the right
Yeah,
offer, everybody is on sale.
yeah, and yeah, I think we do need to hope that next season, because realistically, I mean, I really hope we have a good market and can improve the quality of this squad. But realistically, next season we will still be relying on a lot of these same players, and we just have to hope that whoever the coach is, whether it's Baroni or someone else, they find a way to get these guys back to where they were between August and December. I don't think that will be as simple as, oh, we're out of Europe. We're got a week to prepare for every game. That might help in terms of that intensity thing I was talking about, but perhaps you need to have a different sort of game plan anyway, because we need to sort things out defensively. We cannot continue like this. It's not sustainable. And there have been really good periods for a lot of these players this season. There's been periods when we should remember that where Dia has been fantastic, where Isaacson has looked like he's finally fulfilling his potential, where Guendouzi and Rovella have looked like the best central midfielder partnership in Italy. There have been points this season where all those things have been true. They just haven't been consistent over a year. And so we know that these guys in Serie A can do that and they can hit those levels, but we need to find a way, whether it's mentally, whether it's tactically, whether it's a case of motivation, whether it's a case of better rotation, whatever it is, there needs to be a lot of thinking done about how we can try and get more consistency out of the players we've got, because they do have a much better level in them than what we saw last night and than what we've seen in the last 3 or 4
Yes, but
months.
the problem is all the team finish above us. You won two games, Napoli away and Atalanta away, and in 2025 you won just one against Atalanta. We
Yeah,
won when it didn't count that much. Isaacson was great when it was still December. Dia was scoring goal when it was still October. When the points counted most, all these players pretty much disappeared. When pointers when points were double important, we pretty much didn't show up. We lost 5-0 against Bologna. We didn't win a derby that we should have won. We dropped points against Juventus. I mean, let's not count Milan victory, right? Milan is losing against everybody. This season has lost against everyone. So that's not a great win. And we won last second thanks to a penalty. So in 2025, we've been dreadful, dreadful. And this is the problem. Because, September, it doesn't count, right? You can find teams that are still getting together, that still think, well, we got 8 months to recover from that. May, April, March are where the points count more. And these are the worst 3 months Lazio played. This is the most concerning
yeah,
thing, Alison.
yeah. No, I agree with that. I mean, certainly the big game results have been unacceptable, and it's a big problem, both with moving the table and with the head-to-head situation you can end up in. I mean, that's cost us with Fiorentina. That's why we're out of Europe, is because of the head-to-heads. Um, and yeah, I agree. I think it's unacceptable, especially losing 5-0 in Bologna, losing 6-0 at home to Inter. These kind of results are just embarrassing. Um, so yeah, it's not been a good year. Um, it's it's 2025 has been a particularly ugly year. We're going to be doing a proper season review next week, aren't we?
Looking forward to that.
We'll really get into it then. I'm looking forward to our player of the season and all these things because
Yeah, I mean, worst player of the season is going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to that. I mean, it's going to be a real fight, right? I mean, we have only 4 options. That's going to be the biggest problem, right? But yeah, Alasdair, let's finish it up here. Otherwise, I'm going to kill myself if we still keep talking about Lazio. But guys, really thanks for your support. This is probably one of the worst Monday ever. So thanks everybody for listening. Thanks in particular for our Patreon. I mean, your support has been amazing this season. Again, Wednesday we are gonna do this special Q&A. So if you have question for us, now it's the perfect time to reach out. And Wednesday probably we're gonna be out with this new Q&A, and then next Monday for an amazing season review podcast. So take care, follow us on our social platform, and take care, guys.
cheers.